How's it going, guys? My name is Donnie and that is Matthew, and welcome back to the channel. Guys, for you that's been following along for the last couple of years would know that our channel's direction has changed a little bit, in that we have started to do more and more bodybuilding or car body fabrication rather than the restorations that we also still love doing so much. And that, guys, is because we really love making aluminium cars. And when the opportunity came along for us to build the ultimate 1920s race car, we simply couldn't say no. And that is why, guys, in this series we're starting with yet another project. And that, guys, is that we're starting with this 1920s Bentley Boat tail race car. Now, guys, when the car came to us, it had been given a new ash wooden frame, and I've got the stuff like the radiators and the chassis and everything ready to start building this car. I'll put a couple of pictures on screen to show you guys just what these boat tail Bentleys look like, but they are absolutely gorgeous. And we've been tasked to put an aluminium body on top of this ash wood frame. And the way that we're going to do it is going to be a little bit different than what we've used to do with the fiberglass bucks, and that is that we're going to use this frame as the buck, and we're going to leave the wood underneath the aluminium and basically wrap the aluminium onto this wooden frame and then nail it in place with a couple of nails. Now, there's a couple of advantages and also disadvantages in doing it that way. The big advantage is that we don't have to build an inner structure for the aluminium body. The wooden frame is going to become the bulkheads onto which this aluminium is going to get mounted, giving it its strength. Now, the disadvantage is that there's not so much information on a wooden frame like this than what there would be on a fiberglass body that you could use for a buck. Now, guys, looking at this body, I can tell you that Matthew and I spend a lot of time going through images and just familiarizing ourselves with exactly what this body should look like. And then the next step was to start determining more or less how large we're going to make the aluminium panels that are going to fit onto this body, because the bigger you make these panels, the less welding there's going to be, but also the more cumbersome they're going to become to work with on the English wheels. So we had to determine and find a good midway as to how large we're going to make the panels, where exactly they're going to sit, so we can start making the templates of the aluminium panels that we're going to fit onto this car. Also, another thing that needs to be considered, and that's where a little bit of skill is going to come in, is that some pieces or parts of this body, like for instance over here, has got very little information. So we kind of need to understand how the aluminium is going to get shaped and how the form is going to move towards the back and also towards the front, so that we can have a nice clean line coming from the front to the back without having the information that we need on all of these open-ended pieces over here. So basically we only got these ribs as information, and we need to kind of figure out what needs to happen in between that. And then another thing that needs to be considered is where the aluminium body is going to go after it goes over the edges of this wood, and that is basically going to have to get wrapped around the wood. So we need to make sure that there's enough material left when we've finished making these panels, so that we can then eventually wrap it over the wood, over the ash wood frame. Well, we're going to get to that in a couple of minutes. The first thing we're going to do now is we're going to start off by making a template and then cutting some aluminium and taking it from there. Alright, guys, without going into too much detail now, Matthew's gone ahead and made a template of this rear section, and what he's gone and done is he just, as you saw on the time lapse, stuck it down to the frame, making sure that it didn't pull it too tight, so that he's still got all the information that he needs on these voids over here. And then he marked out exactly where he needs to shrink it. And looking at this piece of paper, if you look at these creases over here, that's basically where the shrinks are going to happen, and this is where there's going to be a little bit of stretch. But Matthew knows exactly what needs to happen now that he's made this template. So the next scene, he's going to take it off start cutting a piece of aluminium, and then he's going to start shaping it.
So now that we've got the panel cut out, if you were to try and imagine to wrap this around the wood, what you need to do is stretch in the center where it's pivoting around, and then shrink the sides and gather that material along these edges to get it to wrap around this wood. So that's essentially what we're going to do next. We're going to block it. We're going to add some stretch here and add some shrinks along the edge until we get a rough estimate of what the shape should be.
Alrighty guys, time for a bit of an update. We've now finished making a handful of panels, and I gotta tell you, it's really starting to take shape. It is looking like a boat tail. Now the next step, guys, is that I'm gonna continue making some more panels to finish off this back end, and Matthew's gonna start by welding these pieces together, because we've made these pieces individually and all of them's got a lot of access, so they're just laying on top of each other. So what he's going to start doing now is scribing a line, trimming them off, making sure that they fit perfectly, match up against each other, and then he's going to start tacking them up, and then when he's happy with that, start welding all these panels together, which is going to be a big job in itself. So in the next scene, you're going to see one of us making panels, the other one's busy welding, and then we're going to make some more progress, and we'll meet up in a couple of minutes. Alrighty guys, a bit of an update. I've now finished most of these rear panels. Matthew started welding them all together and finishing them off. And I've now started making this front scuttle piece for the car, and it entails me making a reverse curve. Now, for you guys that don't know, a reverse is the exact opposite as what you would expect from a normal shape, where you get this bulbous piece moving outwards. A reverse is more like a Pringle, where it's got a shape in one direction and then it's got the opposite shape in the other direction. And if you try to make that, you gotta think in reverse. Instead of just pumping the inside up and getting it to form around the shape, you gotta consider that the inside needs less material and the outside's more. So you gotta pump out the outer edges to get that Pringle type of shape, where the inside's basically what they call a reverse. Now guys, I ain't any good at this, but I've started making a panel. So what I went ahead and did was I took a template and I cut myself a piece of aluminium, and this is going to become the scuttle. And over here where I've creased this line is where I'm going to start my reverse. So basically, if you could imagine, this shape needs to now bend over the wood with this crease in. I need to put some shape in there, and I need to put some shape in there, and then it's going to start folding over the wood, and that's what I'm looking for. But it's a bit tricky, and like I said, it's upside down and inside out thinking, but I'll give it a go and see how I get along. If I don't get it right, I'll ask Matthew to do it for me.
You do. Fuck, you'll do great. You'll do.
What are you going to say?
You'll do. Like that, you'll do great.
You'll do great. Alrighty guys, check it out. A couple of days or a couple of weeks worth of work, and this wooden chassis or body is starting to resemble a boat tail, which is awesome. Matthew's just about gotten all the rear pieces welded together. He just tacked those together, but we've run out of gas, so that's going to be it for this video. All the progress has been made, but the rear end is really starting to look pretty nice, and I've just about been able to get this reverse curve sorted, kinda. Still a little bit of tweaking that needs doing on it, but at least it's starting to take shape. So yeah, this is going very, very quickly, and I think in a couple of weeks time we're just about have been done making this whole shell, and then we're going to move on to what's going to become the bonnet area and then the wheel arches, and that's just about going to be it. But yeah, still a lot of work that needs doing, a lot of finessing and tweaking. And also, after we've finished making all the panels, we're not going to be done yet, because we still need to wrap everything onto the wood and then nail it into place, and also wrap these doors and the boot and the skins and everything on that. So yeah, still a lot of work that needs doing, but at least it is really starting to take shape and starting to look like a car, which is awesome. So guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. I hope that you liked it, and if you like following along with us, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. We'll see you next time. Cheers.